There's a moment that happens to all of us, though we rarely notice it when it occurs. It's the moment right before you form an opinion about someone you've just met, right before you decide whether to trust a stranger's advice, right before you choose which path to take when two options seem equally valid. In that brief, invisible gap between perception and decision, something happens. Something so quick, so automatic, so deeply embedded in the architecture of your mind that you'd swear it wasn't even there, but it is. And it's been making decisions for you your entire life, quietly steering your judgments, shaping your beliefs, and determining outcomes you thought were entirely under your control. This isn't about the biases you've heard of before, the ones with names you recognize from psychology classes or corporate diversity training. This is about something far more primal, far more universal, and infinitely more dangerous because of how invisible it remains. This is about the silent bias that doesn't just influence some of your judgments, it controls 90% of them. Let me take you back to a specific moment, one that might seem ordinary at first, but contains within it the entire mechanism we're about to explore. Imagine you're sitting in a coffee shop on a Tuesday morning. The place is moderately busy, filled with the usual symphony of espresso machines hissing, ceramic cups clinking against saucers, and the low murmur of conversations blending into an ambient hum. You're waiting for someone, a potential business partner you've never met in person before. You've exchanged emails, had a phone call or two, and now you're about to put a face to the name. The door opens, and someone walks in. They scan the room, and your eyes meet. In that instant, before a single word is spoken, before a handshake is offered, before any real interaction begins, something has already happened inside your mind. A judgment has formed. You don't think of it as a judgment, of course. It feels more like an impression, a vibe, an intuitive sense of who this person is. You might notice what they're wearing, how they carry themselves, whether they smile as they approach, the confidence or hesitation in their stride. And from these fragments, these tiny pieces of sensory data, your brain has already constructed an entire narrative about this person's competence, trustworthiness, intelligence, and whether or not this meeting will be worth your time. Now here's what makes this fascinating and terrifying in equal measure. That narrative, that instant judgment, didn't come from careful analysis. It didn't emerge from a logical evaluation of evidence. It came from something much older, much faster, and much less rational than the conscious thinking mind you believe is running the show. It came from a bias so fundamental to human cognition that it operates before you even realize you're forming an opinion. And the truly unsettling part? You'll spend the rest of that meeting unconsciously searching for evidence that confirms the narrative you created in those first 3 seconds, while simultaneously dismissing or downplaying anything that contradicts it. This isn't a flaw in your character. This isn't about being a bad person or lacking self-awareness. This is about being human. This is about how the brain actually works when it's trying to navigate a world filled with more information than it could ever consciously process. The bias I'm talking about has a name in psychological literature, though the name itself doesn't capture the full weight of what it does to us. It's called confirmation bias. That clinical term makes it sound like a simple preference for agreeing information, when in reality, it's the invisible architecture that shapes nearly every judgment you make about reality itself. Confirmation bias is the brain's tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms what you already believe. But it's so much more insidious than that description suggests, because it doesn't just affect how you process new information. It affects what information you even notice in the first place. It affects which memories you retrieve when making decisions. It affects how you interpret ambiguous situations, how you evaluate evidence, how you listen to arguments, and ultimately, how you construct your entire understanding of the world around you. Think about the last time you had a strong disagreement with someone about something important. Politics, religion, how to raise children, whether a particular movie was brilliant or terrible. Remember how completely obvious your position seemed? Remember how you couldn't understand how any reasonable person could see it differently? That certainty, that feeling of being obviously correct, wasn't based purely on the strength of your arguments or the quality of your evidence. It was based on the fact that